Welcome to the Choose on Purpose podcast, where we live with intention. I'm your host, Becky Ploutz. Today's episode is all about balancing bliss at work and home. And if you have ever felt torn between work and personal life, today we're diving into strategies, stories, and solutions to help you align your life with purpose and intention. And I know that sounds like a big thing, and it's a big deal, right? To work on these things and make a choice about how this best looks for you by taking a step today. So let's dive into what's harmony, what does it look like, and what might it be for you? And I'll start by talking about like that harmony versus the hustle mentality and that myth of doing it all, right? That's the hustle. The hustle culture is thinking that we need to do it all, or it's really about that busy work, right? To kind of push it along quickly or forcefully. And I think of pressure, right? I think of pressure. And harmony is about aligning your priorities with your values. And harmony is the secret to sustaining joy and fulfillment, right? Harmony, the definition of harmony is agreement of your ideas, your feelings or actions, or a pleasing combo of them, right? I think of pleasure. So really, we're talking about pleasure versus pressure. And, you know, this is where the idea of harmony can really enhance what you have going on in your work or personal life right now. And let's dive into some strategies for aligning your work and personal life. I'll share three practical strategies for this. So, one is to clarify your priorities, right? This is the big one that we always talk about because if you think about when we give to like the attention and the space to our big rocks, right? The big things in our life, those are our priorities. And if you've ever saw that analogy of, the jar where you put the rocks in first, right? We put the big rocks in first, and then like the pebbles can go in, the sand can go in, right? And those littler things can fill in the gaps in the space, but if we wait to then put the sand, then the pebbles, right? And then the rocks, there isn't enough room for the things to absorb around the rocks because they haven't been made the priority first. So, right, focusing on what truly matters is those big rocks, clarifying your priorities. That's step one. Two is to set a daily intention, right? A simple morning practice to align with your purpose. It doesn't have to be this huge, extensive routine that happens in the morning. It takes like an hour to get into it. It can be simply setting your intention and going to your priorities. Okay. So set a daily intention, set that focus, and that has your priorities in mind. So strategy three is to schedule joy first. And again, your joy is a priority, right? So, some tips for making room for joy in your calendar that I have experienced. One of them this year has been putting my Epsom salt soak time in the bath right on my calendar. It's actually on my calendar 3 times a week. Tuesday, Friday, Sundays. Every week it's scheduled to reoccur on my calendar because I know that when I slow down, right, and I take time to intentionally give my body rest and relaxation, I feel better moving from that self-fulfillment outward. And this doesn't get fulfilled every week yet, but because it's on my calendar, it happens at least once a week. And that's more than when I didn't schedule it, right? I'm creating the space in my calendar to know that this is a priority for me. So, what would maybe bring you more joy if you had time and space planned for it to happen, right? On purpose, that you're choosing this thing in your day or your week, whatever that looks like for you. Consider putting that on your calendar now as a reoccurring event so that you can start to get in alignment with your work and personal life. Because when we care for ourselves, we care for our other priorities in a more joyful way because we're able to bring our best selves to the next move with more joy and fulfillment. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about guilt-free boundaries because this is a huge part of the conversation, right? Boundaries are essential for that balance, that harmony to be welcomed into our life because they protect our energy and our time. And healthy boundaries in work and in your personal life are, you know, they're priority and they have to be put there as guardrails to protect, right? And having boundaries is, again, it's an act of self-respect and love for yourself to know that everything doesn't get your time and energy, because then the people that mean the most or the priorities that you do have for your work, they can't have your best, right? You can't show up and give more when you don't have anything to give. So staying away from, right, the guilt of that, it's taking time from something else. It's giving more energy to those other things because you are filling yourself first. So I'm gonna move into some real life challenges that I have heard and I want to address. And we'll call her Barbara, asked the question of how do I say no to the work projects without feeling like I'm letting my team down. So I wanted to come to the table with some, I'll share 5 work boundaries that can really support protecting your time, energy, and peace of mind. So this is pretty broad, right? But it'll really help Barbara with her question of, how to stay away from the guilt of um, saying no to work projects that are out of alignment. So, one, work boundary number one is define the work hours, right? If you are collaborating with people or you are on a team of some kind, especially, avoid responding to work communications after a specific time. You could say, I'm happy to address this during work hours, which are this time to this time, and I'll get back to you then. Right? That's an easy way to make the clear definition of when your work time to respond is if they're pushing the boundary of time constraints, okay? The second one is to prioritize tasks. Focus on those high impact tasks first. And if it's out of alignment for you, then something you could say is, I can't take on additional projects right now as I'm prioritizing my current responsibilities, right? And then it's out of your hands. It's still back to them for them to prioritize what they need to do with that task without taking it on yourself. The third is to limit meetings. Only attend the meetings that align with your role and your goal, right? And something that you could say when something comes up around this, about around meetings that you're like, I don't feel like this is for me, you can simply say, can we clarify the agenda for this meeting? Right? Why are you doing it? And maybe it's, can we clarify the agenda for this meeting so that you can see? And then it's, I want to ensure that it aligns with my current priorities. Instead of just saying yes or no, ask another question. Get curious about, is it, beneficial for you to be there? Or do you have something to contribute by going? But this keeps you focused in what's in alignment for your role and your goal. And if this meeting is something that it needs to be put on the priority list. Number 4 is to delegate when needed, right? Share the workload with someone, with your team. And something that you could say to stay away from guilt for this is, this task is outside of my bandwidth right now. Like, I don't have the bandwidth right now. Could you or someone else take this on? Right. And that's finding someone else to allocate it to that it's better suited for. Because if you're already overworking, you can't give it your best. There's probably someone else that it's for if it's out of alignment. So delegate when you can. And number 5 for the work is to protect your breaks, right? Take that full lunch or rest break uninterrupted. And this is something that I am actively working on moving into this next year to schedule those things. I don't necessarily need a lunch break, but making sure that I'm taking time to have a brain break from a work time is essential. And it's one of those things that I don't do enough, that I am protecting my time and I'm practicing scheduling those things that I know will support me. And maybe it's to read a book for me or go for a second walk in the day. It's what could I do in that time that protects myself to take a break from my work priorities? That's really important. Okay. Second example of a question that I want. So that was for Barbara and anyone else that has those work boundaries. And this next one is for Susan. This is about 5 personal life boundaries that I'm going to share to protect, again, your time, your energy, your peace of mind. And Susan's question is, how do I create time for my family while running a business? Okay. So, one, saying no, right? Guilt-free saying no. First, I want to start with no is a complete sentence. I have shared this on stages for years now, and it always amazes me how much women respond to the understanding that no is a complete sentence. So, I mean, decline commitments that are out of alignment with your goals or your capacity. Like, something you could say is, thank you for thinking of me, but I need to decline this time to focus on other priorities. Great. Easy. Saying no is so much more clear and kind to the person asking you something when it's out of alignment with your family and running your business. And they don't have to wait to say, oh, maybe, or ghosting them. Just simply tell them, thank you for thinking of me. I need to decline at this time to focus on other priorities. Move on. All right. Number 2, limiting our social media time. So this is one that I am working on for personal. I recognize it. It's always something that I am like, yes, I want to get better. Yes, I want to improve. So setting specific times for checking your phone, right? Checking on social media. And one of the things that I've done in the past that I want to get back to is, being able to put up those message reminders on my business stuff to or even just to have on my phone as like another response to someone that might text me or private message me, to make sure that it gets kicked back to the top, right? As a reminder, because that's one of the things in the past that I know is that conversations get lost, especially when we're thinking about like messengers. messenger apps that they get lost in the shuffle if I'm, chatting with friends on there and then like a business conversation starts and it's outside of my boundaries and how I'm limiting my time on social media, that something I can say and that you can also say is that I'm limiting my screen time, so I'll check in later so that you respond with something that says you're giving it thought, you want to give it attention when the time is appropriate and when you're able to, right? All right, number three is to communicate emotional needs. So this is a touchy one for some people. Um, I think that it's really, really important to share how you prefer to handle like sensitive topics. For example, it could be, right, like you could say, when discussing this, I'd appreciate if we could focus on solutions rather than blame. And this is one of the ways that I actually have been talking with my kids too about, instead of she said this or she did this, like, okay, great. What's a solution that we can work on? Because, right, we're blaming other people and that's not going to help anything. We're going to look for a solution. So, right, we can use this in any scenarios in our life when we need to communicate our emotional needs better and bringing that to the surface to just really set the focus to be on solutions versus blaming. All right, number four, share clear timelines with family and friends. Okay, so be clear about when we're available or unavailable. If we have someone in our life that, thinks that we're available all the time, set some clear boundaries about what that is. Maybe it's, saying, I'll be offline for self-care from 7 p.m. onward. Let's reconnect tomorrow. I love this response because it gives people, other people, the person you're talking to, the permission to also do the same and set that boundary for themselves and to think about how self-care is a priority. I love talking about that. So I love that. Let's reconnect tomorrow. I'll be offline after 7 p.m., right? Like, great. All right, number five for Susan, establish quiet time, right? For thinking about running a business and having a family, dedicate time for yourself uninterrupted. Again, this kind of goes back to my bath time, right? A response that I've been giving my children is I need 30 minutes of quiet time. I'll be happy to chat after I'm done. And then I go and they respect that. They get that. So these are some actionable solutions for those real life questions from Barbara for work and Susan for personal life um, that I got. So I want to remind you that boundaries are also an experiment and they have an ebbs and flow for what you want to prioritize in your work and your life in this season. So it may not work, right? It may not be in alignment to continue this boundary in this season, whatever that might be, right? And the idea of balance is far from a one size fits all because it's about giving your presence to the thing in the moment you are in. And it shifts and changes, and that's part of the beauty. You get to choose what's right for you now, right? So great. Okay, so and some three general tips I was going to share also about setting boundaries is one, to be firm and but kind, right? And using I statements to focus your needs and being away from blaming others for your needs is really important. So firm but kind and all about what you need because our boundaries are for us and they help others because we can show up more kind and joyful when we have the boundaries in place to support staying away from burnout, right? Okay, second general tip for setting boundaries is to anticipate pushback. Now, right, being prepared to simply restate your boundary calmly if someone challenges it. I'm thinking about my kids and how many times I need to keep reinforcing the same things. And that's okay. But anticipating that pushback so that you're prepared to know multiple times that people may need to hear your boundary, especially if it's something really ingrained that you've been letting go for a while, especially with the same people, that they need to learn those new patterns, those new priorities for you. And that's okay. Third one is to offer the alternatives. Like I said, providing those solutions or alternative times to collaborate or connect is really a kind way to set those intentions and give service still with what is right for you and the timeline that you need. So, quick recap, because there was a lot of great nuggets in here that I want to just recap real quick about harmony over hustle, right? Focusing on alignment and progress with peace more than perfection and doing things just to get them done. And also, boundaries are a tool for creating more joy in your life. So use that tool more. Set those boundaries for yourself. And the third one is to remember that small changes create lasting balance and harmony because you are practicing putting your priorities as the priority, the thing. All right, an action step idea for you is to reflect on one area of your life where you feel out of balance and take a small step to align that this week. I want to invite you to submit your balancing wins or challenges that you've had while listening to these episodes around balancing bliss in our free Facebook group, Choose on Purpose Growth Community. I want to celebrate with you. I want to support you. And I want to take time to, if you want to take time to reflect with me on where you felt bliss and really getting to see what did drain your joy and where maybe you need these boundaries stronger moving into the new year and how you can create more of what you want, then join the Work on Purpose with Purpose community for our monthly Plan on Purpose 2-hour interactive workshop event that's happening January 8th from 9 to 11 a.m. Central. And if you're listening to this after that, that's okay. Email the work.onpurpose.withpurpose@gmail.com with the subject line Pop Real Growth. POP stands for Plan on Purpose, and then Real Growth. And I will email you the prompts that we walk through if you miss the live workshop. So again, email work.onpurpose.withpurpose@gmail.com with the subject line Pop Real Growth, and I will send that over to you happily. Thanks for tuning into the Choose on Purpose podcast and taking a minute to rate and review this episode. Remember, you can choose to create a life of balance, one intentional step at a time, bringing joy into your work. Love yourself, live fearlessly, and do all things with purpose. I'm your host, Becky Plotz. We'll see you next time.